Have you ever played any of those paranormal ritual games? Games such as One Person Hide and Seek, Bloody Mary, Charlie, or of course, the elevator game. Well, if you're interested in playing that last one at least, prepare to watch out for any red glowing lights, avoid anyone humming nursery rhymes around you, and learn how to prevent your body from being twisted and torn into pieces. If you can do that, well, happy gaming, my friends. And now let's go. We open on a woman named Becky, who is recording herself via her cell phone camera as she uses the elevator, following instructions for a certain pattern of floors. This, of course, is a titular elevator game, which requires the player to go up and down to specific floors of a building while closing their eyes on the 5th floor for safety. Becky starts by following this rule, but eventually gets impatient with the door closing and opens her eyes. Everything seems fine though, and the door closes without any incident. However, as Becky presses for the 1st floor, the elevator suddenly starts heading up to the 10th floor instead. She tries desperately to stop the machine, but nothing works. To make things worse, as she looks at her phone, a woman is seen standing behind her. It's always nice to have someone have your back, but I don't think that's the case here. The doors open on a floor that is lit in all red, but before Becky escapes, she looks back and screams in horror at what she sees. I guess we won't know what that is though, at least not for a while, since the movie just moves on. Okay. She really should have just left while she had the chance though, with the doors wide open, or better yet, not have opened her eyes during the 5th floor visit, the only rule she had yet couldn't follow somehow. A helpful tip for that rule would be to count how long the elevator doors stay open for on each floor as you visit them. Next, when you're on step 5, close your eyes ahead of time and leave your finger over the 1st floor button so it's ready to be pressed. After getting to floor 5, count how long you're there for, and when the timing is right for the doors being fully closed, press the 1st floor button to move on. Simple. We're now introduced to our main characters, the lambs that will eventually be led to the slaughter, a group of young adults that like to play scary games in scary places. They host a show called Nightmare on their street where they record themselves playing these spooky games. There's the host, Chris, the researcher, Chloe, paranormal enthusiast, Maddie, and the tech expert, Izzy. They are all led by a man named Kevin who, after giving a rousing speech and trying to get everyone to push their sponsor more, introduces them all to a new volunteer intern named Ryan. As the gang tries to come up with any ideas for their next episode that is also within their budget, of course, Ryan suggests the elevator game, claiming a girl went missing in an office building not too far from them after having supposedly been playing the game. The gang is somewhat familiar with the rules, claiming that apparently the pattern someone rides the elevator in can summon the 5th floor woman, a spirit who opens a portal to the dead. But if the ritual is performed wrong, she will tear you to pieces. Guess we know now what happened to Becky during that beginning part. The sponsor for the group's show now calls Kevin and is apparently very angry that they didn't promptly place the product in view or use the proper slogan during their last episode. They demand a proper episode with proper product placement, or they are pulling funding from the show. So now needing something to film as soon as possible, and with the ease of shooting everything in one central location, Kevin decides they are going with Ryan's elevator game idea at once. They start researching the history of the game and the building, and eventually head out to get the footage. They make it to the office building, which is not abandoned or haunted, but is deserted on weekends. Yet for some reason it remains unlocked and without security at the front desk, despite it being an active workplace the rest of the week. Well, I guess movies got a movie somehow. They all get everything set up, including the installation of a camera in the elevator. Afterwards, they quickly get ready for their guerrilla-style filming, hoping to not get caught. They start doing their show with Chloe giving us more information about the 5th floor woman. Apparently she's a vengeful spirit who lives in her own personal land of the dead, known as the Red World. Playing the game correctly has the woman open a gateway to that world for you. Maddie next explains the exact rules for the game. You must go to each of these floors in the following order: 4, 2, 6, 2, 10, 5, and finally 1. On the 5th floor, the spirit woman will board the elevator and stand behind you. You are forbidden to look at and speak to her. Keep your eyes and mouth shut at all times for safety. Playing the game incorrectly, looking at the 5th floor woman, or speaking to her means she will haunt you until she eventually feels like tearing both your physical and spiritual self apart. So, a game with the possibility of death if you make a mistake, and the reward for playing being a portal to the spirit world opening up. Who wouldn't want to play that, right? Well, the Nightmare on their street wants to play, and they head inside the elevator to begin their game. Everything goes without issue at first, except Chloe does note that Chris is being unusually quiet compared to usual. He blows this off as the episode just being boring though, and they continue their game. Eventually, some interference starts to mess with Izzy's camera feed, but it's not preventing them from recording for now, at least. While that's happening, the lights flicker in the elevator car, exciting Chris and spooking Maddie, who tries to leave to take the stairs. They stop him, however, saying that ending the game midway through could constitute the 5th floor woman's wrath, which is a fair precaution. As far as we know, playing the game correctly leaves you unharmed. We don't know for sure if stopping, however, would do the same, and I would rather be safe than sorry when it comes to my body and soul being shredded up. It's the moment of truth as the group inside the elevator are about to head to the 5th floor. Chris dares everyone to take a peek when they get there to make things more interesting, but Maddie tells him to take this more seriously and gets him to swear that he won't look at all. I'm surprised that a true believer like Maddie would even go along for this hell ride in the first place, and for his sake, I hope that a single person violating the game's rules doesn't ruin it for everyone else in the elevator car. They get to the fabled 5th floor near the end of the ritual, and sure enough, Chris opens his eyes. Nothing is seen though, and everything is as uneventful as a standard ride in a lift. Chloe next announces the final step is to press the 1st floor button as Maddie checks behind everyone. But wait, they are still on the 5th floor, so why are they talking and looking? The ritual said not to do that while on the 5th floor, it never specified only while the door was open. Let's just hope they don't pay a hefty price for this choice. Chloe also states that if everything was done correctly, the elevator will go up to the 10th floor now, despite them pressing floor number 1. But that part was never mentioned anywhere earlier with this ritual, so I don't know why they were hiding that tidbit of information until now. Regardless, they press for the 1st floor, yet the elevator actually starts going up. Izzy's equipment now fully gives into interference, and the team loses all camera feed, making them unable to see or record what's going on inside the elevator. Back inside the lift, Maddie is starting to panic, with Chloe and Chris trying to rationalize everything, until the elevator eventually stops at floor 9, not 10. So that was kind of a letdown, but we should probably be relieved that's what it was overall. Or maybe we should be prepared for something of consequence to occur from our latest actions. Recording at an active office space, even on their off time, is risky. And with the group needing funding so desperately that they can't even afford to lose a single sponsor, I don't think they should have risked getting fined for trespassing. I know they wanted to go to the place of the previous player's disappearance, but I think it still would have been better to go to another, more public 10-story building for this. That, or just ask for permission first if possible. Regardless of where or how we get to a place for this game, should we even risk playing it? If you're a full-on non-believer of the paranormal, such as Chris, I can understand wanting to play or even to break the rules of it, especially to try and boost those ratings. But logically, potentially losing our lives if any of this is actually real means even as a non-superstitious believer, we at least shouldn't take a chance breaking its rules. Once the gang reassembles on the 1st floor, they discuss the footage that was lost, with many getting frustrated. Even though Maddie had his own camera on him the whole time though, and should have been able to record the parts that went dark for Izzy. Oh well, Ryan wants to try the game again to re-record the parts they missed, but everyone else wants to just call it quits and make some semblance of an episode with what they have. Seems like an odd choice with their jobs on the line and with how quickly the game can be played. As they go to leave, Ryan blurts out that Chris is only afraid of all this, linking him back to the missing girl. Apparently, Becky was a fan of the group's show, which led to her hooking up with Chris. He found her on message boards and used his star power just to sleep with her, and after humping and dumping her, she tried the elevator game as a way to get back with him, hoping it would impress him somehow. Afterwards, she was never seen again. And how does Ryan know all of this? Well, apparently, he is Becky's brother who wanted to use the paranormal game gang to help him find her, since both the cops and his own parents have given up looking. While the whole group is hurt and disgusted by the lies and actions of these two, a security officer finally shows up and makes them all leave. Outside, Ryan tries one last time to get the others to help, pleading his case to Chloe. She's sympathetic to his situation, but refuses to help after he lied in order to use the entire crew. Understandable. Later that evening, as Chloe enters her apartment complex, her phone loses service, and a strange tone is being hummed by someone up the stairs. That's nothing compared to what Chris experiences, as when he gets to his apartment complex, all of the power goes out. As he uses his phone's flashlight, a figure is seen under the stairs. Before he can run in terror from it, an invisible force grabs him, lifts him into the air, twists and breaks his body into odd shapes, before and dragging his carcass away. Well, that elevated quickly. Not much Chris could have done against a force user, I suppose, and I'm not sure how any of the rest of the gang will fare against such an entity. Meanwhile, Ryan, unsure of where to go for answers or help, decides to take it upon himself to play the elevator game. He does so mostly correctly, but he does open his eyes to look for the first floor button in order to push it. Not sure if that's going to cost him, at least he didn't speak or look behind himself though. After pressing the final button, he is in fact taken to the 10th floor. Except with a bright red glow. Seems any and all light sources are simply red in this world. That and all of the once living plants and trees are now dead. He steps outside into the red world. It's just like our own besides the glow, and that there's a big glowing red X in the sky. The whole place is devoid of life save for one silhouette of a female figure. Assuming this to be Becky, Ryan calls out to her. But as she snaps in half backwards and starts to give chase in contorting poses, I'm suspecting that's not her. He runs back to the office building and patiently waits in fear for the elevator. Back in our world, Izzy and Kevin are also returning to the office complex. Apparently in their haste to vacate the premises, they forgot their camera in the elevator. While going to grab it, Izzy thinks it would be a fun idea for them to also try the elevator games. Seems like an odd idea of fun, but I guess she has this job because she's interested in the paranormal. That, or it's just a good excuse from the writers to have every member of the group cursed by the same entity. As they get to the 5th floor, all semblance of the rules are thrown out the window, as neither has their eyes closed and both start speaking. In response to their transgressions, Kevin has his throat from the back of his neck like a Mortal Kombat fatality, as Izzy is unceremoniously killed off camera while screaming. 2 more down. The elevator now arrives for Ryan in the red world, however, and he is able to escape. Finding the remaining camera the other 2 just had, he witnesses their attack that just occurred on the footage. It's not clear what happened to them through it, but it's clear it wasn't anything good. Once outside, he calls Chloe, who gave her number to him earlier, for emergencies. I think this qualifies as one. He warns her that the game is real and that everyone is in danger, and she begrudgingly decides to hear him out as they agree to meet at the office in 15 minutes. This is proving to be one powerful entity. As he waits patiently for the bus, he hears the sound of glass squeaking and looks up to find the vengeful spirit staring back down at him from above the bus stop booth. Maddie calls Chloe back and just tells her to meet him at the office. Not sure why he doesn't say a she-demon is after me, but I guess he doesn't want to waste time. Looking for the nearest salt source, Maddie runs into a small restaurant and starts helping himself to the salt shakers, which is a smart idea, but there are better ways to do it that wouldn't bring so much unwanted attention or get the police called on us. He leaves the place with the thought that the best way to stop this spirit is to simply close the gateway that they opened in the first place. A sound and smart call. So now we are down half the team and facing a she with force powers that can interfere with phone calls. It's not looking good. Was there anything different we could have done? Well, for one, I'm not sure why Ryan went for the whole undercover idea. In his position, we could have told the team the truth, that we honestly just wanted to find our sister that went missing after playing the game. It would have been an easy way for us to get involved with the gang's activities without making up a cover story or needing to lure and hope that they all go for the elevator game pitch idea in the first place. We could even still hold the truth bomb of Curse's involvement over his head as leverage for if and when we needed it. Just makes no sense to lie from the start and run any and all good will we build up with the crew. And Ryan goes into the game himself later. If he was going to do that, why endanger others by getting them involved? Well, maybe he was going for the cold logic approach of letting others be the guinea pigs for testing this game out. For Izzy and Kevin, I can understand why they would underestimate the rules of the game, considering 3 people just played the game earlier and didn't experience any deaths at all. However, if they didn't believe in the paranormal aspect, why are they even wasting their time repeating the ritual? It would obviously be pointless and just an elevator joyride to them at that point. Or just as likely, what if the others all only survived because they were playing by the rules? In which case, don't intentionally break them by speaking and looking. There's so few rules to this game that it shouldn't be that hard to remember. In either case, whether believing in the supernatural or not, there was no need to play the game again and absolutely zero reason to break the stated rules. Maddie, being the one who believes this all the most, is of course thinking of the best decisions. Covering himself in salt is smart, just to try and make sure a ghost can't touch you. And pocketing as much salt as possible for later is a great idea. We could always just pay for it later, and that's if they even bother to call the cops over something as small as salt stealing. On the roof of the office, Ryan explains to Chloe that the game is real and everything they did worked. She of course doesn't believe him, so I don't know why she agreed to meet with him in the first place if she was just going to end the conversation immediately. Thankfully, he has proof with the camera footage. Chloe is still in doubt of it being paranormal activity, however, but of course is overall concerned for her friends, so she plans to call the cops. As they head back inside, they find Maddie has set up a salt circle and is planning on spending the night within it as he finds a way to close the ghost gate they opened. They ask Chloe if there was anything else in her research, and she explains the full origins of the fifth floor woman. Apparently, her name was Alice McCormack. She was a young woman locked in an elevator shaft for sorority hazing. However, her classmates forgot about her after getting blackout drunk that night. Alice waited alone in an elevator shaft for the entire weekend, illuminated only by the X-shaped red lights on the bottom of the lift, until she was crushed by it Monday morning when workers came in and started using the elevator. But what's worse, according to the autopsy, she didn't die from the squashing, and instead got caught up in the elevator's gear as she tried to crawl away afterwards, where she was ripped to shreds slowly. Well, that does explain a few things, such as the ghost's motives and method of operation, but that doesn't exactly help us beat her. As Maddie goes back to find solutions for their situation, he starts humming a tune without even realizing it. They all recognize it, having heard it around the elevator shaft for Chloe and in the Red World for Ryan. It's apparently a nursery rhyme known simply as the elevator song. A bit on the nose there, but according to the lyrics, you need to ride the elevator again. They take this as a clue of how to actually finish the game and thus close the portal, simply play the game twice. Makes sense and worth a try. While trying to come up with a plan, which is odd since it seems pretty straightforward to just do the game again, they hear humming coming from inside the room. They huddle in the circle for safety as the vengeful spirit approaches and stops the salt's edge. Maddie starts counting his chickens way too early, celebrating the fact that the circle is actually working. However, Alice proves that the salt is actually worthless when she breaks through the circle, and necks through Maddie's jugular with her teeth. The other two use his unfortunate demise as a distraction to escape and head towards the office building, where they immediately call for the elevator. They are almost stopped by security, who finally decided to do their job properly. But thankfully, Chloe takes care of him with some mace to the face. They hold hands as they perform the ritual once more, with Ryan trying to think of alternatives if this doesn't work, and Chloe confidently claiming this will end it. Let's hope so. As they get to the 5th floor, they make sure to keep their eyes closed, but they do mutter to each other to not look, and still open their eyes after the doors close, but before leaving the floor. I don't know, maybe I'm misinterpreting the rules, but I say keep them closed and stay silent until the game is over after this point. Guess it works though, as they aren't killed instantly, and instead make it up to the 10th floor where the Red World resides. Ryan sees the silhouette of a woman through the glass and believes it to be Becky for real this time, but Chloe is eventually able to convince him it's just a trick. I mean, they could have double-checked real quick or called out to her. Worst case, they just keep running like they've been doing. Clearly, if that thing wanted them dead, they would be all ready, so it's worth a try, since all this started in order to save his sister in the first place. They head back down to the 1st floor now, comfortable in the fact that the game is over. But the 5th floor woman isn't over with them apparently, as she makes the elevator stop on 5 again. The pair closes their eyes and keeps them closed as the elevator doors eventually close and the machine heads down to the 1st floor. Once there, the ghost calls out to Chloe, causing her to open her eyes and next for her head to explode. The explosion causes Ryan to open his eyes as he is transported back to the Red World, but this time with his sister standing there. We fast forward to a few years later as we see some streamer attempting to play the elevator game in the same office building that all those young adults disappeared in years ago. I guess the cycle continues. So did everyone die, or did at least Ryan make it? And was there anything else that could have been done? When trying to think of things they could do to stop the ghost, they never even entertained the idea of laying the spirit to rest. This could be done a la Supernatural by salting and burning Alice McCormick's body, if they knew where she was buried, of course, and had access to her in time. Or they could have tried to appease the spirit somehow, possibly by remembering her since she was forgotten originally, which led to her death, or by simply leaving the elevator shaft door open. They could also perform basic exorcist and purifying or protective spiritual rituals around the elevator shaft. Several cultures have methods for this, and we can try a few just to be safe. Point is, we don't fully understand ghosts, so try a bit of everything and find out what works. Speaking of which, there was no way for Maddie to know the salt wouldn't work. It's one of the most common anti-ghost practices. That being said, I still wouldn't blindly trust it. Stay in the circle, but stay far away from whatever side the spirit is on, and hopefully out of arm's length. We could even throw salt on ourselves, or at the spirit to get it to stay away from us. If it doesn't work at that point, that's a good indication the circle itself won't work, and we need to book it out of there. The only other thing to add at the end there is to keep your eyes closed. Maybe try to play the game a second time in a row while still in the elevator, and if all else fails, get out of there and run as fast and far as possible. Still probably wouldn't work, but better than our head exploding. As for Ryan and the Red World, hopefully that was his actual sister, and they were reunited. From there, they can try to escape, or at least enjoy each other's company in Alice's nightmarish wonderland. So, with a supernatural force as powerful as the fifth floor woman, rules that are very finicky to follow at best, and the grand prize being a gateway to a hellscape, the best way to beat the elevator game is to simply not play it in the first place. Let's all avoid needlessly following any paranormal rituals, and how about we take the stairs once in a while? And with that said, my friends, thanks for watching, you take it easy, and I will catch you again next week.